Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ana Barokatul Azizah, but you can call me Ana. In here, I want to tell you about my resume book. So I have done the resume book. The title is How to Teach Speaking. Is it by Scott Turnberry? And there is a 163 page, and there is a six chapter actually. For the first is chapter 1, what speaker do. There is introduction, speech production, conceptualization, and formulation. And others. The first is we will tell about introduction. They express some of the common of a Dylan teacher face and trying to address the teaching of speaking for a long time. It was assumed that the ability to speak fluently follow naturally from the teaching of grammar and vocabulary, and with a bit of pronunciation, though it involves both a common of certain skill and several different talk of knowledge. And then the second is there is a speech pronunciation. Speaking is so much a part of daily life that we take it for granted. Uh, what when involve the speaking? The first point to emphasize is that speech production take place in the real time and is therefore essentially linear. And C, there's a conceptualization and formalization. Formulation, each of the stage of the script that need to be fleshed out at the utterance level. This where specific syntax of each utterance need to be chosen so that content of the story is packaged in a way that is consistent with the speaker intention. The gramming of each uterus is also considered by how much information can be held in working memory at any one time. One way speaker composite for limiting planning time is to use what is called an add-on strategy. And D, there is articulation. What has been formulated no needs to be articulated. Articulate involves that use of the origin of speech product sound, the combined effect. All these variables allow speaker of English to produce a range of over 20 points, up 20 phonemes, I think. Sorry. At the same time as this articulatory process, an engine conditional be changed in loudness, pitch directions, tempo, and pausing serve to organize the sound meaningful, and then word form and the word into meaningful utterance. And then A, self-monitoring and repair. This quick of correction of calf in the instance of self-monitoring process by happen consistently with the stage of conceptualization, formulation, and articulation. And then F, there is automatically all this conceptualization, formulation, articulating, and monitoring mean that a speaker attentional research are very thinly stretched. In this sense, speaking is like any other skill, such as driving or playing a musical instrument. The more practice you uh, to get, the more likely it is you will be able to chunk small unit into large one. And then G, there is a fluency. What actually influence then When we talk about someone as being a fluent speaker of French, or when we say she speak a language fluently, what do mean is fluently simple, the ability to speak fast. Speed is a factor, but it is by no means the only or even the most important one. Also important is the appropriate placement of pause, naturally sounding pause, and those the outer the interactions of clause or after groups of words that form a meaningful unit. H. Managing talk. There is interaction in here. So far, we have been describing what speaker do as if they were speaking in kind of vacuum of but of course speaking take the form of face-to-face dialogue and therefore involves interaction. And then there is a turn taking, and this delicate moment is successful negotiate because the speaker are familiar with the rules and skill of the turn taking. And then three, there is a paralinguistic negotiation of speaking turn thus not really word alone as a sharp intake of breath, of rising of the shoulders, for example, signal, and the ways of take a turn. So the conclusion of the chapter one is in this opening chapter we have a try to get inside the head of a language speaker. What actually happened when thoughts become uterus? We note the speaking consists of at least three stages. There is a conceptualization, formulation, articulation, and then self-monitoring. So we're going in chapter 2. There is a what speaker know. For the first, there is a extra linguistic knowledge. In this kind of extra linguistic knowledge that EVEX speaking includes such thing as topic and cultural knowledge, knowledge of context, and then familial literary with the other speaker, and then literary for other speaker. There is a social culture knowledge. In this knowledge about social value and the norm of behavior in a given society, including the way these value and norms are realized through language. And two, there is a linguistic knowledge. So what is linguistic knowledge? Linguistic knowledge is often language alone, clean from the big picture, knowledge of the way a nested typical unfold, to the fine print, knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. And then there is six. For the first A, genre knowledge. These two basic purpose of speaking generality, host of different types of speaking even. And this in turn will be squares and structured in accordance with the kind of social and mental process that they accompany. And then B, discourse knowledge. Within the structure of a specific genre, its individual element need to be content to so as so for from coherent and then of discourse, knowing how to organize and connect individual utterance as well as how to map this knowledge, and then on the turn taking structure of interactive talk, it's called discourse competent. And then there is a C, pragmatic knowledge. Pragmatic describe the relation between language and its context of use, including the purpose of which language is being used. And then there's a grammar in the sentence, like a call be, a thanks, please, and then the extra stuff, contact factors, including the lack of the formality, make the use of complex language unnecessary. But to sustain a conversation like this over variety of topic with the number of speakers would be like a baby talk. And then there is the last is a phonology. Uh, one of pronunciation, however, where significant choice are available to speaker is in intonation. And then three, speech condition. What are these conditions? This is what factors make speaking easy or difficult. Research have involved a number of factors of which following seem to be most important. They have been divided into three categories: cognitive factor, affective, that is affective. I mean that there is emotional, and then factors, and then performance factor. So the conclusion of this chapter, we start this chapter by making a distinction between what speaker can do, that is the mental and psychological process involved in speaking, and what speaker know, that is the knowledge base that speakers drawn that enable this process, the kind of knowledge that speaker bring to the skill of speaking comprise extra linguistic knowledge, such as background knowledge of topic culture, and then including discourse knowledge, speech act knowledge, and knowledge of grammar. There is a vocabulary and then phonology. In chapter 3, there is a speaking in another language. So the conclusion is, uh, first is difference between L1, ABD, and L2 speaking. The description offered in the process chapter of how spoken fluency is achieved has a made of a distinction between the speaking of first language, I mean L1, and the speaking of another language. So the conclusion of the chapter 3 is, in this chapter we have a look at speaking from the point of view of linear, coping with the challenge of speaking in second or other language. I mean, essentially, the difficulties that the learner speaker face break down into two main areas. And then the next is chapter 4. There's a awareness arising effective. So the conclusion that I get from the chapter 4. In this chapter, we have a look at always of rising learners, awareness about future of speaking. It can be done through exposure of sample of speech that are audio recorder. Either script, semi-script, or authentic. And then there is a live in the form of teacher talk. Awareness can also be a chance when learners notice the gap between what they can do and what skill practitioner can do. One way of engineering this is to adopt text a best introductional cycle. And there's a student performance, speaking text, to the best of their sovereign ability. And there is a They then observe skill practitioner performing the same task, and they note a future they would like to incorporate. And the last is they reperform the original text or a similar one, attempting to incorporate the target future. Other noticing the gap technique in full the formulation, transcribing, and then minuting of learner output. The next is chapter 5. So there is appreciation effective. In this chapter, we have a look at ways the learner may achieve greater control over their own speaking through classroom, process of appropriation, activities. At appreciation, provide learners with the supportive framework in which they can practice control, and then the support may take the form of the first point is a model, which is repeat as in drills or chants, and then a writing text, which allows longer processing time that does live speaking, and then reading aloud from a text, and then the teacher scaffolding of the learner talk by, for example, reformulating of a translating learner uterus, and then repeating a text by doing with different interacts. The support need to be greatly reduced, which in turn will require a degree of appropriation, and then memorize and research the dialogue. And then the support reduction many take the form of, for example, removing the model, so that learner have to rely on memory, and then there's a withdrawing teacher support, and then moving from the written model to the spoken one, and then there is a proof reduction planning time, and the last is performing the text under more exciting conditions, to a time limit or in public. So we are going to sixth chapter. There's a toward autonomy. In this chapter, we have divide autonomy in speaking. Look at ways that opportunities for self-regulation in the skill of speaking can be provided, both in the classroom and outside it, and then discuss why text should be productive, and then purposeful, interactive, challenges safe, and authentic. And then classroom speaking authenticities that require a degree of autonomy include there's a giving presentation and talk, telling stories, joke, and um, means anecdotes, drama activities including role play and simulation, discussion, and also debate, conversation, and chat to another. So we're going to the last chapter. There's chapter 7. Uh, there is planning and session speaking. In this chapter, we have a concert why that speaking can be integrated into curriculum, including issue of weighting different learning objectives such as business, travel, academic studies, will determine of the priority given to oral communication, syllabus organization in the term of speech genre, small talks, meeting, presentation, situation, and then topics, conversational skill, strategies, and then rules. And then speech such as requesting apologize, conversational routine, spoken grammar, vocabulary, and then also pronunciation. And then there is a methodology approach as a text-based approach where the process of speaking are foregrounded, and then a genre-based approach where the product of speaking are generally, and a classroom culture that prioritize authentic communication. And then the last is testing, including the choice of dates a type, means that interview, role play, and then the others. I think that's all from my uh, retell about my resume book. Thank you for your nice attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a nice day.